6 months. That is how long some criminal drug and blood tests have to sit in the state crime lab before an analyst gets to them.
And some cases have even sat for at least 2 years before they got back to a prosecutor for trial. Why is the state crime lab, so backed up and causing a delay in our criminal justice system? In a WWAY investigation, weekend anchor Hannah Patrick takes us to the crime lab, sits down with the officials, and talks to the attorneys who are all dealing with this problem. Hannah.
It's a problem prosecutors and defense attorneys have always had to deal with, and not just in the Cape Fear or even just in North Carolina. It's a problem the criminal justice system across the country has faced. How do you use government funds to pay for enough employees, keep those employees, pay for your inventory, and be in 2 places at once? It's a problem costing the taxpayer, the suspect sitting in jail waiting for trial, and in some cases, it's costing the outcome of the case.
It's not just my problem. It's everybody's problem in the criminal justice system.
The problem? Turnover time at the North Carolina State Crime Lab.
3 years ago, we had cases in here. It was over 700 days, which is 2 years. So we had cases that were over 2 years old in here.
And although that time has dropped,
under a year turnaround for on an average case.
It's a problem delaying our criminal justice system.
It not only slows cases down,
it's also a burden for the taxpayer.
Brings to bear a huge burden on counties having to house prisoners waiting for trial.
And in some cases, New Hanover County Prosecutor Tom Old says they only have 2 choices.
One, try them just based upon the visual aspects of their impairment without being able to prove the drug.
Or in some cases,
certainly have been cases where anecdotally we've had to dismiss cases because we don't have the results in a timely enough fashion.
And sometimes New Hanover County criminal defense attorney Buddy Allard says it's a win for them.
There have been plenty of times where myself and other defense lawyers like me have reaped the benefit of the state's inability to get that blood test down.
So why is the system so backlogged?
Because of this June 2009 decision of Melendez-Diaz versus Massachusetts.
This Supreme Court case set a precedent that said forensic scientists must present live testimony in criminal trials.
The reason we can't get cases done is because everybody's in the courtroom.
But there's another underlying issue here.
It's always a difficulty for the criminal justice system to get funding.
So State Crime Lab Director John Bird has been trying for years to find a solution.
The Attorney General went and asked for more people.
In November 2015, Bird says $1,023,635 was approved in the budget for market-based salary adjustment.
Once that got into place, we were able to stabilize hiring, and so the people we've hired since November, they're currently in training.
Bird is also pushing House Bill 357 in the General Assembly right now. This bill would allow forensic scientists to submit an affidavit in district court.
That could be a game changer for us.
Allard has a different opinion.
What everybody ought to be horrified about, not just criminal defense lawyers, but the general public ought to be horrified about, is that that's simply an attempt by the legislature to cure a problem that they're unwilling to cure or fix by virtue of allocating money to the problem.
He says that bill violates the Constitution.
To take that affidavit of someone who's run a lab analyst on my blood or your blood and accuse us from an evidentiary standpoint of having cocaine in our system or heroin in our system or marijuana in our system. The Constitution says that person should be subject to my cross-examination.
He says there's another solution to this problem.
Anytime that you want something to run more efficiently, you take it out of the hands of the government and privatize it. There's the answer to the problem.
Outsourcing, and that's something that's becoming more popular. TriTech Forensics opened a private digital forensic services company in Southport just last month.
We can be able to handle your computers, we can handle your mobile devices, and do it at a fair price in a reasonable amount of time.
And Digital Forensics Director Chuck Gilpin says local law enforcement agencies are part of their target.
I think obviously it could help. I'm not taking anything away from the crime labs. The crime labs have, their mandated duties. We're just offering as a service to help.
But Bird wants to solve the problem another way.
We were really hoping by the end of 2017 we don't need it anymore, and because it was always supposed to be a bridging solution anyway.
And he says he's been making progress.
January 1st of 2014, we were at 52,000 cases. By bringing more people online, getting more people trained, expanding our services, we've been able to drop that down to 19,595, and it continues to drop.
But even if you solve the problem of funding for salaries and employee turnover, there's still another problem Bird says he's facing.
Equipment replacement budget.
Bird says they have a $13.5 million equipment inventory.
We're averaging about $64,000 equipment replacement budget each year. We do not have the money to maintain that equipment.
So we're back at a funding issue.
It's always a difficulty for the criminal justice system to get funding.
Will North Carolina ever be able to get the funding needed to fix the turnaround for the crime lab, which will then speed up the judicial process?
I've shared with all my stakeholders and the public at large our case stats, our turnaround time, how we're doing, how we're making progress.
So while he waits, the justice system continues to move along, slowly.
For whatever reason, I'm still the scapegoat.
Bird says they've come a long way, but they still have a long way to go. In regards to House Bill 357, lawmakers have asked the lab to provide a fiscal impact report to a new draft bill. The lab is also seeking equipment and startup funds for the new Western lab. That new lab is expected to begin operations in 2017.